Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, and this pinball game? These are three very different games, but what do they all have in common? Well, studies show that they all cause some form of aggression within the player. Now, some might ask how a simple pinball game could make somebody as aggressive as a game like Call of Duty, and I'm going to cover this, but there are a few things that I need to go over first. Now, it should be obvious to everybody that video games don't cause people to become vicious psychopaths as soon as they play it. In fact, some might not even experience a form of aggression while playing video games. However, that being said, there are just too many scholarly reports showing that video games actually do cause aggression. So why do so many frequent gamers deny the fact that video games actually do cause violence? A study brought up by Christopher J. Ferguson suggests that video games actually do cause violence within the youth, but it's a subconscious sort of violence. This means that the player doesn't think they're acting out in aggression, they just think that they're acting normal. This explains why a lot of gamers tend to not agree with a lot of scholarly studies suggesting that video games actually do cause violence. Okay, so you remember that pinball game that I was talking about earlier, right? Well, Iowa State conducted a study using about 500 subjects. Half of them were female and the other half were male. The objective of this experiment was to see if games caused more violent or prosocial behavior. Two types of games were played throughout this experiment. One game that was violent, like Call of Duty, and the other game that was non-violent, like pinball. After these subjects had played these games for a few hours, they were then asked to take a survey. The purpose of the survey was to measure the level of aggression and/or prosocial behavior that was developed after playing the game. The results of this experiment was really interesting. The group that played the violent video game showed signs of increasing aggressive behavior. The longer they played the game, the more aggressive they were. This is probably because these video games reward the player for committing violent crimes. The group that played the non-violent game actually showed signs of both prosocial and aggressive behavior. The reason for the prosocial behavior is probably because they weren't playing against anybody but themselves. Therefore, the subjects would have more of a desire to interact with each other and help each other out. And the reason for the aggressive behavior is because the subjects still got frustrated and upset whenever they lost the game. So, whatever video game you decide to pick up and play tonight, just keep in mind that you're going to have some form of aggressive behavior when you're done playing it. It sure does seem like those scholarly reports have an explanation for everything.
Audio Jungle.